We got ready to set to go, baby. Another big win. This one
Huge, baby. Huge.
What else do you guys want from this team? Competing at a high level, giving everybody what they want. And the people who don't want to win games, they still got their hopes up a little bit too. So everybody's enjoying the season up to this point. Mavs without Luka. What? Who cares, dude? We played one of the better games we played all season. They had to go out there and come back from 10 down and then maintain a double-digit lead throughout the rest of the game is something we struggled to do. And there was moments it felt like, hey, we might let this slip away as the game was going on. But then, Shea, Giddey, big shots by people down the stretch, and we kept the distance at arm's length, like a big brother to a little brother.
Yeah, no, it was nice. And man, I kind of look at what Dallas did with Luka, and some of the teams that we played recently are holding back their better players, and people are saying it's because they don't respect this team. I beg to differ with that. I really, honestly, truly think what's happening with this team, what's happening with this organization is that people don't want to play against us because they have to play twice as hard against us as a normal team. Think about Luka, man. He's got to work twice as hard to get away from Dort, to get away from Kenny Hustle, to get away from, Shea or whoever else is going to be guarding him. If Luka's looking at it and saying, I got to play the Pelicans, we're playing back-to-back Pelicans or Oklahoma City. He's like, fuck playing Oklahoma City. I'm playing against the Pelicans. Yeah. I'll have an easier time. That's what I'm thinking about. That's what I keep on, going back in my head is that maybe this is a scenario and a situation that we're looking at is that teams and players don't want to play against us. And if we are, that's pretty fucking special, bro.
Well, I don't remember who, but one of the recent announcers we were listening to said that this team really reminds them a lot of the way that the Memphis Grizzlies are built. And you have a lot of players who their main thing is to go out there and play at a high level, play really hard, and create opportunities on the defensive end, transition, get going. The stuff we see from Kenny Hustle, and also all of a sudden, you have to give Lindy Waters a big, tip of the cap for his defensive play, because this is what it takes to be an NBA player if you're not going to be the guy who gets to shoot 25 times a game, right? Maybe those guys are allowed to take possessions off on defense, but even the best ones shouldn't, right? And they don't, and they pride themselves in not. But if you're Lindy Waters, you're going to earn minutes because you defend at a high level. You create opportunities. I saw him get credit for 2 blocks. I thought he had 3, but it was just such a high level of competition by him. And I felt like he's earning those minutes in a way that's similar to like a Tony Allen. If you can dive on the ground, if you can play defense at a high level, and then all of a sudden you have a weapon like his 3-point shot, well, we're in business.
Yeah, and when it's working for Lindy, and I think that's the thing that's so great about it is he shot 50% from the game last night, 8 points. Like Mark said, 2 blocks, but there was a third, I think they called it a deflection, that led to a steal and up the court. He had a steal, he had an assist, he had 3 rebounds, one of which was offensive. He's just a very productive young man right now. And this goes right back to what we were talking about before the show, Mark. It's our G League. These young men are getting quality minutes in our G League. And I love it when people are telling us that there's no way that, our first rounders in the future will be going to our G League first. If you do it this way, you make them earn their minutes. They turn out to be like Lindy Waters or Trey Mann or Aaron Wiggins or, Lou Dort. Here we go. Another one. Didn't get to see it. Jalen Williams, last night. Jalen Williams, J-Will, he was out. But, man, these guys are going out there and getting quality minutes and then going in the NBA and producing exactly what we know they can do. And I think that's what's so powerful about this. And we talked about it before the show, and you said you wish you had seen J-Dub play a couple, games in the G League to get a, kind of a hold of what he can do in flapping his wings there. I think it's interesting. A fact there is that I don't think that there's any player, a rookie player in the future that shouldn't spend time in our G League to truly understand the heart and soul of what this team is. And I think it's good for all these young men to do so. We saw Trey Mann earlier this year go to the G League, dominate, scored like 75 points in 2 games, come back up, and he was ready to go again. This is what's going to happen for young men. And does Jalen Williams go down to the G League? Possibly. But, man, I got to talk about this because we're playing small ball right now, incredibly small ball. And Jalen Williams is being forced to play power forward right now. I feel like he's been playing, I mean, we're playing a zone, a very heavy zone, but he's being forced to play, or the power forward's being forced to play against him. I like what this does for Jalen Williams here. This is good for him. It shows the mismatch on the offensive glass, everything else like that. Like, Jalen Williams is so athletic and so strong and getting to the hole. It's truly spectacular. And we saw him last night. He would draw the defender out, and then he would attack the hole when the shot was shot, and he got 2 offensive boards because of it. Like, this is what he's so good at. He's understanding the game, and it's like a chess match for him. You know what? If I can pull the power forward or center out, and get him out of the lane, we got a better chance of getting an offensive rebound. And we pulled 12 of them last night, and I think that has a lot to do with the way J-Dub played.
Yeah, there were so many good minutes by him. And another dunk, we saw Josh Giddey get into the rhythm and knock down a couple of threes in the fourth quarter. He had foul trouble, had 5 fouls in the third, and then he came back out there. It was similar, I guess, to what happened with Dort the previous game, where 5 fouls, sat early, and then came out and had a really big fourth quarter, and really got us some key scoring when our offense was starting to struggle. Or how about this? I don't know if our offense was struggling as much as they were going on a run, and we were able to trade buckets and keep them at arm's length. So big minutes by Giddey. I felt like the key, once again, as always, though, is Shea's mastery of the game. Now, we had been going back and forth. I wouldn't say we were down on Shea in any way, but like after winning games without him there and then kind of being like, can we keep this offensive ball movement going when he's back? Well, the first 3 quarters, or really, I would say 2 quarters, like he only had 10 points, okay? And then the third quarter, he kicked it in. He put up, I think, 12, 14 points in the third quarter, and he kept going aggressively in the fourth quarter. Those lanes were more open for him because early on, he wasn't like necessarily trying to force anything. Not that he ever forces anything, but when he let the game kind of come to him this time, it felt really nice. Now, with Luke out there, it might have been a different environment as far as like we might have felt like we needed him to keep going out there and be aggressive early. But this game, for how we were playing, the team that we were playing, if you watched the highlights of all the made buckets, like the ball is clicking. Our guys are cutting, we're moving. And, I think the Mavericks, basketball. It is. The Mavericks know what they're getting into, and they still can't stop it.
Yeah, and I look at the Mavericks team and what they try to do, and, they try to play a big ball against our small ball. And I think that, unfortunately for Dallas, the small balls didn't work against big balls. And I kind of, look at this team, and I'm like, I can't help but get excited about it, because if you're looking at these young men and you're saying, in the last couple of games, we've shot 45 and 42% or 43 and 45% from the 3-point line, man, like that's what we need to see. Like, this team is so phenomenal. We didn't score a bucket for almost 4 minutes, 4 of the last 5 minutes in that fourth quarter, man. We didn't score a bucket. And then we scored 2 buckets in the last 45 seconds of the game to ice it. Man, like, that's how well we're playing right now. Like, we could go out there and we don't necessarily need to score consistently right now. And in the past, when we've seen this team play out there with Shea and other teams, if we go on a scoring drought, man, it's fucking over. The game's over. Like, how many times have we seen this team go out there and just get annihilated because we played really great basketball for 3.5 quarters, and that half quarter we got blown out by 30 points. And that no longer is happening. And I think that the gap has closed now. And it's because of our defense, the way that we play defense as a team, as a zone, as a man, as a switch up, and consistently causing issues, going full court if we need to. It doesn't matter. Like, watching this balls to the wall mentality that these guys are playing with, man, it's inspiring. Like, all these guys are so young, and yet they're playing like veterans. And that, to me, like, is powerful. Look at Lindy Waters. He played like a 7 or 8 year vet last night. Omorari, man, how long has he been in the league for? Well, this is his first real year in the league. This is Trey Mann's
the Mavs
second
wishing they hadn't let him go by the end of the game.
I know. And this is why it's so powerful, is because when you buy into something, and this is in life in general, But when you buy into something, you buy into yourself, you buy into your company, you buy into your baseball, football, basketball team, and you recognize like the way the organization's run, right? From top to bottom. And then you see how these guys are being handled and raised. And it's like, because that's what's happening inside this organization right now, is these young men are being raised inside this organization. And you can't help but take a step back and just be dumbfounded and wonder of like the greatness that's happening with Oklahoma City Thunder. And passing it on and understanding that if this is the way that the new NBA is going, is that players are first in the organization and players are treated as they should be. Injury, great. Let's sit you out for a couple games. Are you sick? Fine. Let's sit you out for a couple games. Like, this is how it should be run. It shouldn't be, like what happened with KD or with other players that have gotten, Klay Thompson. He should never been back out there. Like these guys or players will always say yes because they're competitive. That's what the organization's designed to say. No, you cannot go. And I think that's the biggest thing that we're seeing is that we're seeing, yes, we'll see a freak accident here and there, right? But it's a freak accident. Once these guys are getting inside of the organization and getting inside of what everybody's doing, these guys are getting healthy. And I think that's the thing about it is that this team is going to continue to get better. And it's exciting because I mean, we can say this is where their peak is, but the reality is we can say the peak's here, but the peak is really probably up here. Mm-hmm. And that's the most powerful thing about it is because we heard what LeBron and Kobe and some of these other guys said when Russ and KD were young and Harden were young. We got to figure out a way to break these guys up. Otherwise, nobody's winning a championship for a long time. And people are going to start doing the same fucking thing.
Yeah, we saw some really good minutes from Wiggins. Big pass to J-Dub for that dunk. It was a really good no-look pass, and then he knocked down a three. At least one. I know, he didn't play a ton of minutes, but he had some really key plays out there. And defensively, you got to love what he does out there. But you mentioned sometimes, we'll go full court. And I heard Coach Daignault talking about Kenny will be out there and he'll call the full court press completely by himself.
I love it, dude. You see it too, man.
Right. So, and then you were also talking about our defense and that being the key. And really, I think, it's really Kenny. Like, we don't have Poku right now. We don't have JRE. We traded Roby. And Baisley is...
We released Roby, yeah.
Okay, you're right. But Roby's no longer with... And Baisley's, not sniffing the court right now. Okay? So, but we're playing really high level. We're playing with Kenny as our center. Josh Giddey sometimes plays a little defensive center. He's got the size too. You know what I mean? So you'll see him, J-Dub will play that power forward. Like, we're playing zone. We're playing almost like a man until the ball hits like one of the sidelines or the corners, and then we switch into a full-blown zone, not like a matchup zone.
Yep.
And we're seeing all these different things that
crazy, man.
But they're kind of like they're innovations of a team who feel overall mismatched, right?
Sure.
But whenever you see it, you're like, okay, this is the type of basketball we want to keep playing later. But are we a better team when we have this mentality of we're the underdog, and we got to find a way to maximize the group we have versus like, well, let's leave Poku on an island. Like, will we keep this style of play going after Poku returns?
Yes, and when Poku was in the game, man, it was the same thing, man. Like, it was all the same. Like, we would go between what I call the matchup zones where, everybody has a hand on somebody essentially, but in the zone, help. It causes a lot of issues, especially with guys that decide to go with big guys. We saw Poku playing the middle of it. That's where I see Chet playing as well. And listen, we're just playing at a different level, and it's more obvious here. When I see the game, I'm watching it, okay, every single time down on defense as a possession. Okay, we're in a zone. Like you said, we go from zone to man, right? Or man to zone, like really fast. The ball goes out of balance. There's 14 seconds left on the shot clock. We're changing it up. Like there's a sophistication to the simplicity of our defense. And, bro, it's a beautiful, beautiful way of going about and doing things because it causes issues. When at the end of the game when a team calls timeout because they want to see what our what we're going to be playing, right? Coach calls everybody in and says, all right, here, we're going to be playing this now. This is next level. Like, this is the NBA. For the longest time, it's been man-to-man, man-to-man till you fucking die. Like, if we can pull this off, like, run a zone that's not just a good zone, but a fucking world-class zone with the guys that we have and that 7'2" wingspans that we have and the 7-foot wingspans that we have. Like, come on, man. Is there a team that's going to be able to shoot over us consistently every single night? No, man. This is beyond anything we've ever seen.
So is this like Kenny at the 5? And obviously when you have guys who can take charges out there, it really helps your zone, because if you're not going to block shots, you need...
Why do we get J-Will?
Right. So, I feel like we're playing a better form of basketball than we have really all season. And
better than we've seen in 3 years. This is...
Right. And I don't really think that there's any one singular reason, but my question is, can we keep it going? Or is this is this one of those signs that you see with a young team where you're like, oh wow, we got it all figured out, but then it's like, oh yeah, consistency is the last brick on this.
Well, I think this can consistently work up until the All-Star break. And this is why I say this, is because this is the hardest time in the NBA for teams. You're injured. You're just trying to limp into the All-Star break, which is, 5 weeks away, 4.5 weeks away, something like that. So, like, teams are just trying to limp in there to get that break, right? So this is when we're going to be able to maximize what this team can do. We've got a couple hard games coming up, but, dude, let's just be honest. I think we have 10 games left. I think we can go 6-4 in the last 10 games of this month right here. That's exactly what we just did. We just did 6-4 over the last 10 games. So I think we can repeat that. And here's the thing about that is, if we do that, 2 more times, is that possible that we're sitting in a position that, a team's looking at us saying, okay, mid-March, we've got 35 wins, something like that. Can we make a push here? 32 wins. Can we make a push here? Like, that's what we're looking at. Like, if this team can do this consistently, which, you're asking here, is then, yeah, we've got a legit chance to make a playoff push. It doesn't matter our height. It doesn't matter anything else like that. If you think about what the Warriors did with Draymond Green, as center for a while. Yes, they, when they played small ball, they went with Draymond Green. They didn't go with anybody else. They went with Draymond Green, and that's what destroyed a lot of teams. And what I'm saying is that it's like we took a playbook or a play out of the Golden State playbook in that manner, and saying we can do this consistently, but we can play good defense on every single night and every single possession because we know how to play more of a zone. I don't know what else to say, man. So do I think we can continue doing this in the next 10 games of the month? Yes. Can we do this for the next 10 games of February? Yeah. And go into a position to be, sniffing the playoff minutes right there, and having Shea get a true opportunity to get to the All-Star break and be an All-Star? Like, hell yeah. Like, why wouldn't we be making that push? Like, listen, you're going to be, this year in particular, in the West, you're going to have to get close to 40 wins to make the playoffs. You're going to have to make close to 40 wins. Do the Thunder have it to make close to 40 wins? Yes, we do. But I think could be in that position that we could be just sniffing right outside. So where does that lead us? Well, that leads us in a top 10 pick for next year, while getting these playoff minutes. So it's crucial. Like, we got to keep going. We got to see what this team can do. You got to let them go. Let them go. Let's see what they can do.
I anticipate this team continuing to play well, even if, we see a player or two go down. The question is, if we see a whole group of players go down when we're already at this point where I don't know of anybody that we're going to get back in the next week, So, that's the question.
With teetering where we're at right now, we're at like number 7 or 8. There's not much movement forward, and there's not much movement.
What do you mean we're 7 or 8?
Well, I think where we're at right now in the grand scheme of things.
You mean the standings?
The standings for
we're not 7
draft.
or 8. We're outside the top 10.
I'm saying draft for drafting.
Oh, draft. Okay.
Yeah. So I think there's 3 teams below us in the West, and then there's Yeah, we're at like 7 or 8. What we're saying is that
Two
I don't
teams
think-
below us in the West.
Two teams, okay.
Let's see.
the
Every
Lakers
team
just
outside the
passed us, yeah.
playoffs in the East is below us. So that's 5. So
I mean-
6 teams, 7 teams.
And what are we talking
So we're
about?
8. You're right, bro. You said 8, and I questioned you, and now
No, but
we took
what
the
I'm
long
saying
road.
though is that like so what? We win up to 30 something games and we still sit in that 8 to 10 spot? Like why wouldn't we go out and try to get as many wins as possible? Because again, for the West and the way it's designed, like it's going to be East heavy. And because of the East heavy, I think it leaves something open. Who knows what can happen at that 7 or 8 spot, 9 spot. And that's what we're looking at. Like that's easy for us, man. That's easy for this team to go out and say, how many wins can we get? Because it's not going to affect our drafting at all. It might affect 1 or 2 spots, but if anything, we can have a better chance at moving up in the draft. If you look at the last few drafts and where the draft picks have moved up from. So, man, I don't know, dude. Like, again, this has to go for it. We have nothing to lose. We have nothing to lose.
I mean, we could win a lot of games and still find ourselves exactly where we are right now in the standings.
We're 40 games through the season right now.
Yeah.
Exactly 40. We're 18 and 22.
Right.
Doubling that up is 35 plus wins, man.
Right. So 35 wins and find yourself in a spot where you're drafting or your odds going into the lottery are top 10.
That's it.
We count that as a win. Now, other
Fucking
teams
huge
could, end up like the Jazz.
Yeah, but the West, we move up 1 spot in the West if the Utah starts sucking balls.
Right.
Okay, that's it.
Or the Spurs. The Spurs could decide, pack it in.
I mean, there's always that. I mean, there's always. I thought the Spurs were below us.
No, they're in front of us right now.
Oh, and you got Utah. I still don't know. I'm always on the fence about Blazers, man, especially when it comes playoff time. Like if they're going to be able to get healthy enough for making that playoff push. So there's openings for us if we were to get close to 35, 36 wins, and there's a spot that is in that playoff spot, man. Again, there's no reason for us to say no to that. Like it's just not. Like for us, if it's a top 7 pick, or if it's, let's just say 7, 8, 9, or it's 10, 11, 12, but we get an opportunity to play in the playoffs, I'm taking that 10, 11, 12 any day of the week, because it's those minutes that are going to really make these guys better. And if that means that we have to be healthy, obviously, but it's those playoff minutes, guys. I mean, think about Shea, how much better Shea came back the following year after playing in the playoffs with Chris Paul that year, his second year, and the first year playing with the Clippers in the playoffs. So it's good for these players to get to the playoffs for their longevity of their careers.
We want to see it. We'd love to get another great pick, but we already have a great pick that hasn't touched the court yet. So we're going to see how that goes as it happens, man. I noticed Russ is doing pretty well in the All-Star voting. Makes me pretty happy.
Have you switched up? And sorry, I can't vote for anybody but Thunder right now.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing anything like that. But like, 6th man of the year, people are talking about that for Russ. That's good to hear people being positive about Russ. So I'm happy about that, man. What else, bro? What else? We got last night I stayed up too late watching 60 Minutes, the Prince Harry interview, bro. And when he was talking about tripping mushrooms and ayahuasca, dude, I was like, all right, bro, turn that shit up.
Yes. Dude, I didn't see it, but I definitely will now, because I'm all for drug positivity. I mean, I'm sorry, psychedelic shit, what am I saying, dude?
I don't know, bro. But anyway, kids don't try it at home.
Positivity in general.
Find a safe place like a hotel. Anyway, we appreciate everybody joining us. We got so much to talk about, but right now we're just gonna bask in this win and enjoy this moment.
We're gonna let it soak for a minute or two.
Yeah.
The Mormon way, baby.
We apologize to
you guys.
all
All right.
Mormons.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look up Mormon soaking. It is a real thing, and it is definitely worth looking at.
I questioned Dave. I looked it up. I don't know if it proves it's a real thing, but at least people create content about it. So it exists in cyberspace, but I don't know, man. I'm glad that's not.
It doesn't sound like a very fun thing to do, I'll be honest.
I mean, if it's that or nothing. Well, anyway, we'll leave it right there. We appreciate everybody. We love you. We will see you soon.